Hi, everyone. Heidi Elimore here. I am a product marketer at Microsoft. And today we're going to talk about innovations in Dynamics 365 Contact Center. I'll be doing a bit of a tour today on current product and innovations that we announced last week. I'm back at Microsoft about 8 weeks, so I will not claim to, I will very clearly state that this is a 200 level session. And if you do have deeper questions, it's specifically questions about call queues, any of the team's deep questions comparative to Dynamics, I might not be able to answer them. I was giving Jamie a hard time. I said, hey, come in here and you can be my stump the chump. But at any rate, excited to talk about everything that we announced last week and a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and get started. So just to check the level of understanding in the audience. So how many people feel like they understand what a contact center is? Yes? Okay, we've all been customers. The way that I describe just to anybody who asks, like, what is a contact center? I always say it's about, if you think of Teams or enterprise communication applications as communicating with people you know, contact centers is about communicating with people you don't know. And from the enterprise side, that means communicating at scale with end customers. Now, right now, most of you probably know contact centers are having a moment, and maybe you don't know, so I'll give you a little bit of context. So I feel like contact centers today are having a similar moment as video did during the pandemic. And I'll give you a little bit of context why. I remember, back when I was talking about video endpoints, poly systems, for example, we always had to talk about the value of being able to see the human interactions, the body language, all of those rich contexts. But now, obviously, pandemic, everybody's a believer in video. Contact center right now is having a moment because contact centers are both a cost center as well as a place where organizations have to build and maintain relationships with their customers. That kind of tension, that natural tension, means that technology innovations are the natural place to be tested in the contact center. So that started, of course, with started with conversational AI, continue with generative AI, and now in this world of agentics, it's certainly even more true. So before I dive into Dynamics, I thought this team would probably appreciate a little bit of context in terms of Microsoft has solutions. Again, as I had mentioned before, if Teams is about communicating with who you know and contact centers are about communicating with who you don't know, Microsoft actually has a couple of different options for how you communicate with folks you don't know. For example, the Queues app within Teams, being able to handle kind of those informal contact centers, help desks, et cetera. You've got the ability to expand upon that with Copilot Studio. Think of Copilot Studio as like your conversational canvas where you can go in and design both digital as well as voice-related interactions. And then, of course, you have what I'm going to talk about today, which is Dynamics 365 Contact Center, which is, you should consider Microsoft's true CCaaS offering. So CCaaS, Contact Center as a Service, so has a couple of kind of core components, which I'll talk about here in a second. But what does that mean as you're making a decision for your end customer? Again, we're not going to spend too much time on this today, but I thought it would be worthwhile to at least start with the context of, hey, there are multiple options available from Microsoft. It's a classic Microsoft challenge where, what tool when, it'll always be true. It's about developing the right solution for the right use case, and that often means not a single product. But when you think about being able to handle communications at scale across channels, when you think about agent experiences, when you think about structured supervisor experiences and deep analytics, Dynamics certainly has that traditional CCaaS offering. I do want to kind of nod to, especially since a few of these folks are our sponsors, that the importance of the ecosystem in Teams with our IVR partner, or excuse me, with our contact center solution partners. So again, don't think of this as, okay, Microsoft wants to be the be-all, end-all with Dynamics Contact Center. Certainly is not true, and these are still trusted partners in the ecosystem. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the trends and then we'll dive in. Hey, AI is having a moment. Contact center is in the center of that storm. Most of you are probably talking to customers who are being pressured by their C-levels, by their board of directors. If you go out and read the 10K for any major customer right now, you're likely to find that modernizing customer experience is a top priority. AI adoption within the enterprise is a top priority. So whether or not you want to be talking about contact center, you probably will be in some form or another. So just a little bit of background on, and by the way, I always consider this the slide on, like, why did Heidi go back to Microsoft slide? This is actually super important in terms of if you compare it to other CCaaS solutions in market. Dynamics has a really interesting architecture, I think, specifically with the data. So Dataverse, I consider kind of a differentiator, not just because it houses traditional CRM data, which is optional. I don't know if anybody knows that, but within Dynamics, you do not have to consume the CRM. You can consume a third-party CRM if you want. But the fact that it can house both customer insights, interactions, customer data, analytics, all from a single data layer. Most other CCaaS providers, it actually is multiple data layers, which means you get limited on how much you can learn from each interaction and then implement changes and optimizations as time goes on. So many CCaaS providers will talk about like unified routing, unified experiences, and all of that. Again, I kind of consider the data layer and then the integration with Copilot kind of the core differentiator for Dynamics, and obviously the surface area and integration with Teams Phone as the telephony arm for Dynamics Contact Center is also super interesting. Now, I had planned on jumping into a demo, but I was having some internet issues, so I'm going to see if this will work. Just to give you kind of a quick walkthrough of what the experience looks like. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to talk through it. Sad. Okay, well, then we'll go back to slides. No problem. I just would like to show for the record that I was going to do a demo. All right, so what's the news? Because of the pressure that most organizations are facing with not just deploying AI and getting value, but also there are a ton of solutions in market now. Many of you might be aware, there's a ton of new unicorns out there trying to go get conversational AI use cases deployed in an organization, ranging from self-service, at the front end, all the way to agent assist and analytics. The result of many of those efforts are fragmentation, customer continuity, obviously lots of challenges on analytics and reporting. Where the Microsoft story has evolved with agents is that there's, especially within Dynamics, a much more structured approach to how we're deploying agents to get value within the contact center and also across the entire CX portfolio. So there's 3 new agents that we announced last week. The first is Customer Assist Agent, the second is Quality Assurance Agent, and then the third is Service Operation Agent. And I'll talk a little bit about what their function is. There are existing agents, knowledge management, so being able to utilize existing case information to create a knowledge base case management agent, as described, pretty straightforward. And there's also actually an intent agent as well, which I forgot to mention here. But the idea here is that you have these agents that are aligned. In fact, I'm just going to go quickly through a few things real quick. the agents are aligned to not just specific personas, but aligned to what those personas take care of from a workflow perspective and the outcome that they're trying to drive. So if you think of the definition of an agent being an autonomous, something that takes action on your behalf, these agents are taking action on behalf of specific personas within the contact center. So we think of the customer assist agent as aligned to both the CSR human agent, otherwise known as the carbon-based agent. I love saying that because nobody's come up with a good way of saying agent, AI agent versus human agent, so carbon-based seems to work. But essentially helping optimize that customer service rep experience, and also front-ending with self-service. I'll talk a little bit about the innovations that we released with these agents specifically around voice, because that'll be a preview to what you'll see in Teams actually pretty soon. Quality assurance agent is about aligning to the supervisor experience. So supervisors within the contact center do a few different things. Obviously, they're managing and acting as a point of escalation within a contact center, but then they're also managing often staffing. So they're managing how many people need to be on in a specific skill at a specific time, and managing the quality of those interactions. Because of that, we didn't name it the supervisor agent, we named it quality assurance, because the outcome is that we want to increase the quality of the interaction. And then finally, admin. The admin experience, I think, is super interesting, and there have been a few similar attempts out in market, but this is the first time I've actually seen a CCaaS provider do something like this, where the admin experience is about not only the management of the contact center, but also about the setup. So using a conversational interface to prompt and derive that initial setup, ranging from creating queues, queue assignments, agent assignments, and so forth, with skills. So this is the strategy for agents within 365, Dynamics 365, which should start to feel a little bit more cohesive, rather than just these like random functions that get deployed out. And why is that important? I think most of you are probably familiar with the concept of a customer journey, but I'll just kind of really quickly ground us in that the happy path for many of a customer interaction starts with some sort of self-service scenario. So I go out to a digital experience, maybe a chat, maybe SMS, maybe email, or I call in through voice, and I interact with an experience that hopefully helps me resolve my issue without having to take any additional action. In the case that that's not possible, we escalate to a human agent. That human agent has a set of skills and tools at their disposal to be able, again, resolve the issue. If they are not able to resolve the issue, that they have the support that they need from the supervisors. And the supervisors, again, see that broad left to right view of the contact center so that they can see how the business is doing across the board, and then also available for specific interaction support. And then once an issue or an interaction is resolved, being able to learn from those interactions. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about each of the agents themselves and what innovations surfaced this last week. So Customer Assist Agent is an inbound and outbound agent in the contact center. All of these agents are going to be the construct for future innovations. You'll see additional innovations show up as skills in each of these agents. So for example, you'll see future skills on Customer Assist around, I'll just make this up, around additional things for escalation paths from self-service to an actual CSR, because and you'll notice that this is actually a single agent for that function, because we don't want there to be a self-service agent and an agent assist. We want that to be one single cohesive experience. So all of these capabilities, inbound and outbound, were available before. Customer Assist is all about, again, an agent is about automating and taking action. So The newest innovation within Customer Assist is twofold. One, will now support real-time voice. Previously, IVR support within Dynamics Contact Center was very structured, deterministic, based off of specific workflows. You had to design all the IVR branches and essentially rely on the NLU to derive intent. Now we're using generative AI engines and essentially taking what was like a 3-putt interaction into a single generative interaction. And the other innovation in Customer Assist is proactive. So previously, if you wanted to do proactive communication out in Dynamics, you did that through our CI or our customer, I think it's customer intelligence. Anyway, but all of that is now built into Dynamics 365 Contact Center. So I thought I would talk a little bit about, since this is a voice crowd, the voice evolution and why this is important. Most of you are probably familiar with this 3-putt architecture, right? Nods, perhaps. So if you are building out like an auto attendant or an IVR, you have this structure where you want to be able to understand the spoken word, so automated speech recognition, speech to text technology that then is passed off to NLU, where you have some sort of dialogue flow to help derive intent. And then once intent has been determined and you figure out how you want to respond to a specific inquiry, you then respond back to the end customer using text to speech. This is, again, that more deterministic, structured interaction, which has served us well. But now, being able to use Gen AI models to drive more real-time speech. And so this is called speech-to-speech. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that term. But the benefits of speech-to-speech are, first, because you don't have to go through that 3-putt architecture, it's much more responsive. It can support multiple intents at the same time. It also is lower latency depending on where it's deployed. And it also can do things like switch languages midstream. So if I called into, let's say, a bank and said, I want to increase my credit limit because I'm going to Europe next month, I'm going to go shopping. So there's actually a few different things that I said in that interaction that a traditional IVR wouldn't be able to handle. It would maybe be able to derive credit limit increase. Okay, let me get you to that workflow. But generative AI can say, I see she's traveling, so let's flag her card and make sure that she doesn't get any disruption of service. So that's one intent. And then the next intent might be, she needs a structured, or she needs a credit increase. That's a structured workflow. Let's get her to the right deterministic interaction there. So the flexibility here is that now within Dynamics, you can have both classic voice. So you really want a repeatable, something that's much more, it could even be highly managed from a compliance perspective, especially in financial services. You can support those classic voice interactions. With real-time voice, you can now support those more generative interactions. And you can imagine, gosh, wouldn't it be great if there was a world where you could take the best of both? Because I'm sure it won't surprise you, generative interactions are more expensive. About, let's just say, 10x, typically, the cost of, and by the way, that's consistent across the industry. Those speech-to-speech models just are more expensive. So you'll want to make decisions not of where you want to deploy. So for example, perhaps in a specific IVR, you want Gen AI voice up front so that you don't have to develop a really rigid, perhaps brittle and doesn't queue system that doesn't grow with you. But you want to quickly get folks to deterministic workflows that are cheaper to manage. Does this make sense? Okay. All right, so Gen AI, super great for ambiguous. NLU, really good for more structured interactions. Both of them available. And gosh, if you can get the best of both worlds, look for us to also be talking through how we can help you take the best of NLU, or excuse me, TTS and STT, and also use Gen AI to quickly derive intent. So think of that as kind of like a hybrid voice architecture. Not something we're talking about yet, but look for something from us pretty soon on that. So super exciting. And by the way, most of your customers, when they're talking, I mentioned AI is top of mind. Where do we quickly get benefit within the contact center? This is where most customers are focusing their initial calories. It's not necessarily, and so for example, you'll see a lot of, what do I want to say? Similar competitors, for example, like Sierra, Decagon. Has anybody heard of those folks? Yeah, I'm sure you have. So that's where a lot of those players are coming in and like getting some calories with IT departments. So definitely think of this as an important place to kind of understand and talk about with your customers, because this is where they're going to want to derive some quick innovation. And by the way, I'm just going to keep talking fast, but please, I'm hoping you'll raise your hands and ask questions. And when I don't know something, I'll say, Jamie. Just kidding. Maybe I'm not kidding. Okay, so that's the voice agent piece of customer assist. There's also a skill around proactive. Proactive is super interesting for a few different ways. I think I was talking to an analyst who focuses more on the traditional CRM business, and they're like, well, of course proactive is important. Gosh, it's about engagement and marketing and cross-sell, upsell. And I'm like, yes, of course. But within the context of a contact center, it actually has some really other unique meaning. So being able to perhaps notify a customer about an event that could be service impacting before they reach into your contact center. So for example, a bill reminder before service is interrupted, or an appointment reminder before they miss that appointment, they have to call in and reschedule. So proactive also has an important part in the contact center workflow, and it's not just about cross-sell, upsell, although obviously that's a unique benefit, especially if you're using the underlying CRM. Okay, so that's customer assist. Just a quick time check. I'm trying to spend about 10 minutes on each. Any questions? All right. Let's talk about quality assurance next. So again, just to recap, quality assurance is aligned to those supervisor experiences. So being able to not only provide real-time guidance to a CSR, but also to provide post-interaction, or what we call closed interaction, feedback. That's important for a few different reasons. One, it's part of coaching and managing your customer resources within the contact center. But it's also important because you can use that same structure, those same measurements, not just for human agents anymore, but you can also use them for AI agents. So you can compare and contrast your resources, and now these new hybrid contact centers have resources that span both your digital employees as well as your traditional CSRs. And so you take those inputs across channels, across, again, as I mentioned, AI resources, as well as CSRs, carbon-based employees, and provide things like compliance monitoring, being able to use AI as that first layer of management, but then also being able to provide that human in the loop in cases where you make a judgment call that a live support is required, and then scoring and showing trends across over time of both the AI and human interaction. So each interaction will automatically be scored after the call is complete. So you can see, I don't know, this is kind of an eye chart, and resolution doesn't look super good. But you will see that you can create your own evaluation criteria, and based off of the interaction, the quality assurance agent will score the interaction itself, again, and you can adjust it because there's an opportunity for humans to go back in and gut check as a human in the loop. But you can see that this is, part of ensuring that not only are you designing the contact center to meet your business needs, but are your individual resources are doing what they're supposed to be doing. So this was my attempt at an offline demo. We'll see how well this plays, since our internet's not working super well today. So you can see here we have guardrails that we can create specifically, like, for example, around empathy, or let me see, I think this one was empathy and also escalation management. So based off of those guardrails that are created within the interaction itself. So this is the agent desktop. Let me stop for a second. So this is a pretty common agent desktop layout for those of you who may or may not be familiar. So you have the customer interaction on the left-hand pane. On the right-hand pane, you see coaching, and this is like the Copilot experience, right? So the suggestions and also the ability for the CSR to go in and query and ask for support explicitly. In the middle section is either if you're using Dynamics for CRM, your case management. If you're using a third party, it would surface in content from your third party source. But you can see here that, hey, we're pulling up that this is a interaction with Lorenzo. Lorenzo is worried about not being able to make a payment. So the interaction escalated and the context is passed from the self-service motion into that agent assist. Okay, so now we'll show you what it looks like from a quality perspective. So you'll see that, hey, you might want to be a little empathetic. It looks like, this is a sensitive topic. He'll copy that over into the conversation with the customer. And, oh, looks like he's asking for some PII. That's not cool. Not supposed to do that. Hey, compliance, you shouldn't ask for PII, right? So it gives you, again, that first line of defense from an AI perspective. And then the supervisor can actually have an experience where they see the interaction happening live, and it's not working. Oh, sad. Oh, that's on my next demo. Okay. So then the supervisor will be able to monitor the interactions, and if that automated AI management doesn't do it, then the supervisor itself can take action and either explicitly recommend things like, for example, we call it nudging. We can provide nudges directly to the CSR, or, worst case, it's on fire. Oh my gosh, I need to jump in and save the day. You've got the ability to barge in and support the CSR. So all of that is part of that continuum of support that a supervisor provides a CSR within a contact center experience.
And that is also referencing previous interactions from CRM or whatever was indicating several agents.
Yep, exactly.
Indicating a high because of a previous case.
Yes. Exactly. Yep, exactly. You got it. Cool. Sweet. That's what I said. All right. Doing a quick time check. Okay. Oh, we're doing good. All right. Any other questions? I find again, none of this was not possible before, but all about agents is that it's about automating and simplifying. And so what the agents are doing is actually just creating a construct by this becoming much easier to consume within the construct of Dynamics. That's a good question. Somebody else asked me that. I haven't formed an opinion on that yet. I would definitely say, based off of the customers that will be participating at CCW at the end of June, The customers that'll be on stage with us are large enterprise customers. But we have everything from, when I look at our base, large enterprise customers down to what I would call maybe lower mid-sized customers. So I would say it's probably not an SMB solution, but I might change my mind on that. I'm only 2 months in. But there is, of course, we talked about at the very beginning, the fact that, hey, there's an ecosystem of solutions out there, not only depending on the size of the customer, but also depending on the complexity. Because complexity is actually the more important vector when you're using to select a contact center solution. Because, I mean, you can have a 50-employee company with super complex business requirements. And what is a contact center if not like the codification of business process? So it really is not necessarily aligned to agent count. There are some pretty complex businesses that are small. Okay. So that's quality assurance. Let's talk about service operations. I'm excited about this one because I've tried to set up contact centers myself, and it's hard. Every contact center has some core components: queues, skills, agents, routing, all of that logic. And getting started can sometimes feel like a lot. And so the purpose of the service operation agent is to help simplify both setup and management. So the idea here, and again, these first couple skills that are, by the way, this is in preview. So all the other two agents are GA. This is in preview and in North America only. You could go and all of them, I think I forgot to mention this too, are paid with Copilot credits. So it's usage-based. And we'll be making a Copilot credit calculator available shortly. I'm pretty sure that's public information. Okay, cool, thanks. A Copilot credit calculator shortly that'll enable you to, figure out like, hey, if I were gonna do, these real-time interactions, for example, depending on my call volume, what would that end up costing me on a monthly basis? So these first two skills are around setup and then conversation orchestration. The setup is about really just configuring your initial channels. So provisioning, being able to select which channels you want active, creating queues, setting things like business hours, and then also assigning skills and agents to specific queues. So all of that kind of core meat and potatoes, motherhood and apple pie is part of the conversational setup. And then conversational orchestration is all about what happens when a customer is in queue. So overflow logic, VIP logic, that kind of transfer logic, all of that capability can be configured using some out-of-the-box templates. So since we don't have a live demo, I'll just play the admin, the service operation agent. So again, you go to the conversational interface and create, do a prompt for creating a new channel for customer support with these business hours. So then the agent has some transparent computation, asks for some more information. So asking for operating hours, confirm time zones, language, etc. This is my favorite part of watching a demo. Can somebody type coherently? So as the agent is completing its tasks, it'll ask more information, and then it will notify when the work is complete. So now the customer support live chat is now ready with specific business hours. Okay, so that's the setup agent. the setup skill within the service operation agent. Now let's talk about orchestration. So orchestration, it will go in and, this is all about just showing what just got configured within the chat channel itself. So you can see the customer support chat was created. You can go in and make changes because, again, this isn't about automating and then letting go. There's guardrails. You can go in and make changes if you need to, etc. Oh, my orchestration demo is not here. Okay. So orchestration demo, or the orchestration, is all about not just, it's not just the setup, but then it's like what happens to the queues once they're live. So it will do some logic detection and conflict detection. So it'll, how do I explain this? There's this concept of playbooks. So it will take a series of actions, will get organized into a logical construct called a playbook. And those playbooks run. You can run multiple playbooks at the same time. It will check to make sure that those playbooks don't conflict. It'll check to make sure that there's not duplicate playbooks. So conversation orchestration is all about creating sets of logic to run on top of the queues that you've created. So for example, you can see that there's some templates here. So to update priority based on queue transfer, you can configure overflow logic. So for example, if you had a VIP customer call in and they're sitting and waiting beyond a certain threshold, you can set up the orchestration to be able to take action so that VIP customer could get immediately routed to either another queue or directly to an agent. And so it continuously is running these playbooks. They're continuously being evaluated, and then obviously you can reuse them. So you can copy and paste them, and so forth. So as time goes on, you can imagine how you can additionally add skills to service operation agents to flesh out additional capabilities to help optimize an existing contact center. So think of things like, hey, I need to set up a contact center with this many agents, with this many skills. I need to use this specific industry template, like, for example, maybe perhaps a healthcare template or a financial services template. And the intent behind all of this is all about speed to value.
Quick question.
Sure.
So is there any kind of method to have like a traditional call flow where you say, here's my greeting, here is my menu options, or is that like only part of like the first tier? You mentioned like your TTM app that's on the cheaper level, and then if you go to generative AI, is it more so your channels or phone numbers route to this IVR system? Here's all the agents you associate with it, the agents you associate with queues, and you just talk, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and it knows that we have a prompt for this keyword there. Let's set it all that way.
If I understand your question, so short answer, yes. So all the conversational design occurs in Copilot Studio. So you go into Copilot Studio, that's where you configure, cross-channel, like what your interactions are gonna look like. And then they're evoked via the flows in Dynamics Contact Center through the Customer Assist agent. So you can decide, like, hey, based off of the outcome of this interaction, I want to send it to this queue, or I want to send it to this queue. So if that answers your question. So yeah, okay. Yeah? Okay, now I'm speeding through content so much faster. All right. That kind of sets us up for kind of the context in terms of what I just explained is, so think of the construct of agents within Dynamics is that your conversational canvas is MCS. So that's where all of your conversational design occurs, Copilot Studio. There are Copilot Studio-based agents in Dynamics. So Customer Assist agent is one of those agents where you can evoke those Copilot Studio agents. And then there are agents that are purpose-built specifically for a function within that Dynamics app. An example of that would be like the service operations agent. Service operations agent wouldn't have too much of a function in sales, for example, right? But you have a very purpose-built, functionally specific agent within a specific part of Dynamics. So think of agents within Dynamics as having somewhat of a continuum. And I think this is going to be true, especially as you start looking at the deployment of agents across various applications. The goal ultimately would be to have Copilot Studio be that kind of single pane of glass for agent management for those conversational experiences. So if you, for example, have a conversation that you want designed for teams, and by the way, that real-time voice, this is public information, so I can share this. It will also be available to the teams. Let me see, is it voice agent or auto attendant? What is it called these days? All right, you don't know either. Okay. The voice agents and teams, that'll be available for auto attendant as well as mainline attendant. Thank you. No. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Bang.
That's the handshake.
Okay. I was like, why are you shaking your head? Why are you shaking your head? I'm glad Grandpa Jamie's here to keep us on the straight and narrow. Thanks, Jamie.
Perfect.
Why is there a gap in the recording? Because Heidi can't take a hint.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, ex-marketer. All right. At any rate, so this was the announcements that were made last week. Exciting. You probably noticed that there were other announcements too. Like, for example, Microsoft announced yesterday our new, what was it called? The Work Index. Work Trend Index. Thank you. Gosh. Work Trend Index announcements. But we also, at that same day that on the 27th, we also announced a series of sales agents. So researcher, being able to enable sellers to quickly get up to speed on an organization, customer data enrichment, so being able to quickly enrich data you might have about a customer, just really cool stuff. So definitely spend some time, if you're interested, of course, looking into the other announcements. But as you can probably imagine, it's fast and furious right now. So, but specifically for Dynamics Contact Center, those three agents will be the construct by which future innovations will happen at least within our agentic offerings within product. So with that, I think we're at like 16 minutes left. And so I thought we could just open it up for Q&A and dialogue and have some fun. Obviously, can't get on internet, so can't show you anything, but
Is there a compliance recording out of the box? Like with
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. That wasn't always the case, but it is available now. Yes. You do not need Dynamics for CRM. I don't know exactly. I've never done it before, but there's I think some standard integrations. Yeah, there's some standard integrations you can go in and, like, to Salesforce, for example. But oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to repeat the questions. I'm getting flagged. So on optimize and iterate is the idea that it will automate and take action based off of performance and make suggestions for configurations. That's what you said, right? Yes, and there's a bit of that today in terms of all of these. Again, you come down to why did Heidi come back to Microsoft? I really do like that single data layer story. It is in other contact center architectures, you have very segmented data structures. So even though you could capture really rich customer data, you're limited on how you can use that. You have to specifically evoke it in a customer flow. You can do a little bit of what you just described today, but it is manual. You can imagine perhaps in the future, there might be suggestions on, hey, you're getting a lot of traffic on this specific topic. Perhaps you would like to add an upfront self-service experience for this. So yes, that is the vision. The term in market has been, there's been lots of different terms for it. Flywheel, self-healing contact center. There's been a lot of different kind of pie in the sky visions about this. There's been some realization to it, but not a ton. Kevin probably knows better than anybody, but there's been some visions that's been articulated before, but I'm excited about the possibilities there. Yeah, no, it's okay. I'll try to remember to repeat it.
You need to have dynamics background and understanding of the platform to deploy dynamics to contact center, or is it mainly the contact center using the branding of dynamics?
So if you go into the Dynamics portal, like the app launcher, the experience is called, I think it's Copilot Admin Center or Copilot Studio. No, sorry. It's Copilot Service Center, sorry. And that is a unified admin experience for both customer service and contact center. But you don't need customer service or CRM. So you go in and from Dynamics, you launch that admin experience. That's kind of a subjective question. I think it was designed to be where it would be standalone because, again, the market is, although traditionally CCaaS and CRM were very tightly linked, and to a degree they still are, there's definitely a trend of, because we can get all this rich data from customer interactions, because we can be more predictive in how we interact. Do we really want to tie ourselves to a specific CRM? Maybe not. I think that was the design decision behind.
I just look at the chart. You have all the vendors in context. You just need to know how to use their platform to by everywhere all these guys.
Sure.
And then there's dynamics context center, context center, or you need dynamics to do context.
I don't think so. It's got the same building blocks as every contact center. Yes.
That's the part that's really confusing.
Oh, sorry. The question was, is it confusing because it has the Dynamics branding?
Yeah, I think he asked a really good question, which I know you're just back short term, but it's like for a short while.
You never know, right? Uncle Satya can make decisions. Uncle Satya is in control.
NDA information.
Yeah.
But no, I thought that was the question, which is where is dynamics? Like, I think that question, whether it's agent count or complexity.
Yeah.
I do think that there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace. You've got 28 certified contact centers that partner with Microsoft. When is that the right solution? And when does dynamics, is that a better solution for our customers?
Yep.
And having a better answer and I appreciate it's complicated, but I think the market is confused about it.
I completely agree. I'll just be super transparent. Got the recording. No, just kidding. That's part of I think the opportunity for Microsoft, and frankly why I came back, is because I think the beauty is the multiple offerings. I think the beauty, and by the way, there's there's so much. So it's $29 billion market opportunity right now. Half of that is still on-prem. And of that, half of that is going to move in the next 2 to 3 years. So for everybody here in this room, that's why contact center is so exciting, because it's like, oh my gosh, like to take advantage of all of these innovations, you have to move to CCaaS. So figuring out what that story is, frankly, that's why I came back. And it's going to be probably messier before it gets cleaner, but I think it's exciting because if we can figure it out, I think that there's a ton of opportunity, not just for us, but for our partners. So, I mean, I appreciate the question because it is, and on branding, I've been asked the question if we want to rebrand, and I don't have an opinion yet. I would say rebranding is fraught with risk. And it would be a full-time job just to rebrand something, which there's a lot of work to do otherwise. But I have considered it. And Copilot will not be in the name. Yeah.
From a carbon-based agent's perspective,
yes.
Client, is it app and Teams client?
Oh, such a good question. So today it's a web-based client, and it's separate than Teams. And by the way, that's pretty consistent across various CCaaS providers. There is kind of two schools of thought on, do you have a standalone agent experience, or do you embed within the system of record call control experience? That was like the 5 nines strategy for many years, where they would integrate with like a Salesforce, Zendesk, whatever, and they just pop call control. Amazon Connect has a similar strategy where you can get the, what's it called? CCP, the call control pane. And you can embed that into like a system of record for, click to call or immediate answer. But today, the integration option or the option for agents is a standalone client. One of the main differences between call queues and Dynamics today is that call queues will use the Teams app instead. So, yeah. Exciting. I think it's exciting, at least. So, with that, any other questions? Was this interesting? Like, I totally winged it. I'm back 2 months, and like, I don't have all the answers, but man, it's cool. So if you have feedback, I hope this community I can use you as sounding board, because, oh my gosh, we're going to be moving fast. So thank you very much for the time. Appreciate you.